Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome to WLSSD's Fix-It series. In this episode, we're going to learn how to repair a flat tire on your bicycle.
Ready to tackle your own repairs? WLSSD's Fix-It series will show you how.
I'm going to assume that you already have the wheel off the bicycle, and we're just going to go right into how to take the tire off. Take a look at the tube, try to determine where the leak is, and either repair or replace it. I want to talk a little bit about the two different types of valves you might find on a bicycle. This is kind of a standard valve like may have on your car. That's called a Schrader valve. The other one you might run into sometimes is a thinner valve, usually with threads on and a little knurled knob that holds it in place. And then a part up on top here that opens the valve up. When I start a repair, I'm always aware of where the valve is. And to take the tire off, I'm going to start opposite the valve so I don't damage that. I use my thumb to kind of give myself a little bit of space here, and the tire lever to kind of catch the first bead of the tire and bring it around to the front. The next lever will go right where this dips down, and I'm going to try to catch a little more and just slowly peel that off one little bit at a time. I'm going to work all the way around until I get that first bead completely off the wheel. Once it's part way off, you can either use the lever or your fingers and kind of scrape it around like this here until the whole first bead is off of the rim. Just like that, all the way around. Next, I'm going to come back again opposite the valve, and typically you can do this just by hand, and you're just slowly working your way around until the whole tire peels off the rim. One thing I'd like to point out with the rim is that they should have some sort of a rim strip on here. It can be a cloth one like this, it can be a rubber one, and that's just to cover the ends of the spoke nipples so that they're not sharp point that could damage the tube. So you want to make sure that's in place. You also want to make sure it's not riding up on this shoulder of the rim here, because that will keep the tire from seating properly. Once you have the tube and tire completely off, I like to take it out, put a little air in it, and see if I can recognize where the hole is or the damage. And once I do that, I'll determine whether I want to put a patch on it if it's just a small pinhole, or probably replace the tube, which is what I typically do. As long as the tire is off, I like to take a really good look and even feel with my fingers on the inside. You have to be careful because sometimes the piece of glass or wire might be protruding through the tire and you could scratch your finger. Then with a new tube, I like to start with just a small amount of air in the tube and then work it back into the tire. If you want to be really nerdy about it, you can look around the tire, find the inflation PSI, and put the valve right there, so you don't have to look for it the next time you go to pump up your tires. So I'm working this in here with just a small amount of air, and as I try to put this back on the wheel, I may even release some of that air to give myself a little more room and make the job go a little bit easier. There's also information on the side of the tire that's worth looking at, and generally it's the inflation pressure in PSI, it's the size of the tire, in this case 27 by 1 1/4. So if you need to replace the tire, that's good information. There may also be a small arrow that tells you what direction the wheel should be going when it's on the bike. So take a look at the information that's on the tire. Okay, I've got the tube into the tire, and now I'm going to put it back on. On this part, I like to start with the valve rather than opposite. And the very first, maybe most important part is to get that valve in place and directed straight towards the middle of the rim. So if it points to the hub, you're doing well. As you can see, this bead is already started. This bead is over here on the tire is completely off. I'm going to start by working my way away from the valve and get the first bead completely on. Again, I'm just going to use my hands. One other thing I'd like to point out before I go too far, the shoulders on this rim is where the bead of the tire will fit. There's usually a dip in between the two shoulders, and that little dip is what helps you, give you a little more room to get the tire on. So keep that in mind as we're putting this on. I'm going to get the whole first bead on. Now I'm going to come back to the valve, again making sure that valve is straight. You can kind of shift it a little bit at this point, and then starting right there, I'm going to work this around, get it onto the tire. This is where sometimes it gets a little tight, and you may be tempted to use that tire lever to get that last little bit on. My suggestion is to use that dip in the rim and make sure that bead is falling into that dip right now to give yourself a little more room, and then slowly work the tire back on. So if you take advantage of that hollow in between the two shoulders, it usually provides enough movement that you can just put it on by hand. Again, a little bit tight. Another thing I might do is let out some of that air that I originally put in there. Work that bead into that hollow spot between the two shoulders on the rim, and then finally it'll snap into place, just like that. When I go to pump it up, I'll put just a small amount of pressure in it, maybe 30 pounds of pressure, and then I'll take a real good look at the tire all the way around and make sure the beads of the tire are staying up on that shoulder of the rim. So at this point, I'm just going to really take a close look. There's usually a little line that should be visible all the way around, and you can tell you're right when you can see that visible small line just above the side of the rim. If it's sunk in at this point, you can kind of work it back out where it's supposed to be. What you don't want is for one bead to be very high, which will probably indicate that the tire will blow off when you go to pump it up. Now I feel very comfortable to pump it up and hopefully continue your ride. And that's how you replace a bicycle tube. Thanks for watching. Check out our other videos for more fixes you can try at home.
If you can't fix it yourself, join us at the next Fix It Clinic. Learn more and sign up online.